a farmer before he became a trug maker, and he used to hang one around his neck and scatter grain in the fields on the Pevensey marshes from it.
Grab a trug, if you can get one behind you, and run us through the the production method.
Right, on the trug, you've got, first of all, the handle and the rim, which are made from sweet chestnut. Chestnut is a hardwood, so it lasts a long time. We coppice our own chestnut in local woodlands, and that chestnut is brought back here, cleaved out with a froe. The froe's really like an upside-down axe, thin axe, with a handle poking upwards. So you hold the handle, put the froe on top of the wood, and then hit it with a mallet to split it down. Because chestnut splits very well, it's one of the reasons why it was used, apart from its local availability. And then they come in for Reg or the other guys to shave, like he's doing behind me now. Once that's been shaved, that's taken out into the steam shop, steamed, and then bent round formers. The handle we make in one piece. Some of the rims we make in one piece, but generally speaking we make them with two pieces, which are nailed together with copper tacks.
And what are the innards made of?
The boards are made from cricketback willow. Each trug is slightly different to its neighbour, and each board is adjusted for size by the craftsman with his stock knife when he's putting them in.
That thing looks very, very, very sharp, Reg.
Yeah, it is very sharp.
What's it called?
A draw knife.
A draw knife?
Yep.
I got a photo down here, going back a bit. Which one of those? Are you in there?
The good-looking one there.
Oh, the dark-haired bloke.
That's right.
Yeah. Who are the others? Can you remember them?
Well, Mr. Summerfield Vick, he's dead. That's me. That's Raymond Smith. He was related to Mr. Smith, who used to own this, but I don't ask what relation.
So he was another relation of the original
relation,
Thomas Smith.
Right. And this is Tony, the deaf and dumb bloke used to be here, but he's retired.
And the building looks exactly the same as it is now.
Yeah, nothing alters, it's just the same.
Nothing ever changes here?
No.
Trug sales have got a good future. We have done an estimate of the world potential for trugs, and we reckon it's somewhere in the region of about £4.5 million per annum. But we're not going to aspire to that. We'd rather keep to our 10 to 14,000 trugs a year and make them in the craftsman way.
And if you know of a shop or a business that's still run along traditional lines, I'd love to hear about it. You can drop me a line at the usual address. It's Collector's Lot, P.O. Box 17, Plimpton, Devon, PL7 5YG. Now, I'm joined by a collector who you could say has got her hobby well and truly licked. Sheila Foster collects stamps, and not just any old stamps, but those with a floral theme. For Sheila, everything's coming up roses, and she's brought her detailed collection along to show us. A warm welcome to the programme.
Thank you very much.
What a clever idea. Have you only ever collected stamps with roses on?
No, I started collecting Great Britain, and it got too expensive. So I decided to pick a theme as it was quite popular at the time. And because my grandfather bred roses, I picked on the roses theme.
Now, you've got them set out in all sorts of different categories, haven't you? Can you
Yes,
show
I
us some
have.
of the different sections?
Yes, symbolic roses. These covers a multitude of sins. Obviously, this is love. And creators of new roses here. That's a nursery in Belgium that does produce or breeds new roses.
So these stamps come from all over the world?
Yes, they do. That's the beauty of thematic collecting.
And of course the English rose, who we think of very much at the moment,
Yes,
Princess of Wales.
Diana.
These were beautiful stamps produced to commemorate her 21st birthday.
Yes, that's right, from Anguilla. The British Post Office had a field day producing special hand stamps when the Diana stamps first came out. I've only collected the ones with roses on, but there are about 15, I think, at the moment.
Looking at these ones here, you've got a whole section on war and peace. These are ones
Yes.
with a sort of military theme.
Yes.
Looking at one here from Jersey, the Battle of Minden, what's that got
Yes.
to do with roses?
Well, some say it was the Lancashire Fusiliers or the Suffolk Regiment fought at the Battle of Minden and defeated the French in 1759, I think it was, yes. and it's said that rejoicing soldiers plucked roses from the hedgerows and wore them in their caps. And ever since then, to celebrate Minden Day, August the 1st, they still wear the roses in their caps.
That's
on
lovely,
that day.
isn't it? You've branched
nice.
out into all sorts of other postal related items with roses too.
Yes,
There are some wonderful telegrams amongst them. We've got a
Yes.
beautiful old-fashioned one there with old-fashioned writing
Belgium.
on it. That's very attractive,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
And this one a little bit more up to date, the pink one.
It's pretty ghastly, actually. It's a lovegram, and by British Telecom, and I don't think I'd like to receive it, actually.
But it's in the collection
the
anyway.
silk one there.
And we've got some religious stamps here, coupled with a postcard from Germany. Why is this one
Yes.
special?
That's a 1,000-year-old rose. It was supposed to have been planted by Charlemagne in 913, and at the moment it's about 80 or 90 feet.
Got another postcard here. Now you get really deep into the hybridisation and the naming of cultivars
yes,
here.
yes. This is Grace of Monaco, bred by Milan, who's a French breeder. And this really is just to fill the page. RM Rose Company, obviously somebody who grows roses.
Have you got any tips for collectors who'd love to get into this thematic collecting?
Not really, just pick your subject and go out and look for it, really. I mean, it is such a world of stuff to choose. That
And where
can,
do you get your stamps from?
From stamp fairs, from auctions. It's just keeping your eyes open. And once people know that you collect roses, they look out for you as well.
Well, it's obviously very educational
lovely
too.
hobby.
Super. You've sold it to me. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Now it's time for our second visit to sculptor Brian Alabaster's studio, where he's making a bronze sculpture of his son Tom to put in the garden. Yesterday we found out how he sketches the outline and builds up an armature in metal and clay. Today he starts the fine details of the face.
The face is probably the most important part of the statue. People's eyes are naturally drawn to the face, and it's the first thing they recognize. I enjoy working on faces because it can be very rewarding, but it also can be very frustrating, the time it takes to get a good likeness. As you can see, this is the statue of Tom. I've now developed the legs and arms to a reasonable standard, but the most important thing, as I was saying earlier, is the face. Now I've got Tom here so that I can make a direct comparison between the clay and the live figure. The first thing I'm going to do is to work on the bone structure and then gradually build up the elements of the face. Well, that's the clay just about finished. I've got to let it dry out so that I can cut the arms, the head and the legs off the torso to make it easier for me to make the molds, which I'll turn into bronze later. Now, the clay is gone off, is hard, and I've cut off the head and the other parts of the body to get pieces that are small enough to take molds of them. Now, the objective of this is to get a rubber mold into which I can paint wax, and by the lost wax casting process, turn that into bronze. The first thing I'm going to do is to cover this original clay with a blanket layer of soft clay, and over that make a hard plaster cast. The last thing to do is to put on the keyways which will hold the mould into the plaster case. I'm now going to put a clay wall around the outside of the keys to contain the plaster when I put the plaster over the top of the clay. Right, that's just about done. just going to smooth it off with the final layer of plaster over the top and leave it to set for 10 or 20 minutes, and then I can carry on. Right, now this half of the mould is set. I've cut the top off to give us somewhere to pour the rubber in, and looking at the other side, I've removed the blanket of clay that was giving us the gap between the head and the plaster case. Here's still the head, but underneath it is another half case that I made in the meantime. The clay here is still in place, supporting the head. Now I will replace this half of the clay of the plaster case, leaving a gap between the head and the plaster, which is where I'll pour the rubber. I'm just going to put the mould now, the model, on the floor to make it easier to pour the rubber. I'm going to pour the liquid rubber in between the clay head and the plaster mould.
That's fascinating, isn't it? Make sure you're watching tomorrow to see how it turns out. It's time for a short break now, but stay tuned. Coming up in part 2, the second clue in the Golden Year competition. There are cacti galore, and I'll be going back to the days when picnics were a touch more luxurious when eaten from hampers like these. See you in a couple of minutes. Welcome back to Collector's Lot in the Garden. Now, I don't know about you, but picnics for my family tend to revolve around the cool box and lots of boring old plastic containers. It's all a far cry from the 1920s, when the picnic hamper was a status symbol reserved for the upper classes who took their al fresco dining rather seriously. My next guest collection includes some very fine hampers indeed. What sparked your interest in collecting these?
The very first time I ever had one, I found it on a car boot and paid the pricey sum of £4 for it.
And where's that one?
Long gone. I went to a classic car show with my lovely little traveller, and a gentleman literally ripped my arm off for it.
So Morris Traveller, this is exactly the right car
Yes.
for these kinds of hampers,
That's
isn't
right.
it? Which is your oldest one?
The Drew, over there. It's dated from around about 1910. The Drew Company were pretty unique in their own. You had to be at market sort of thing people for those. Not 100% complete, but as complete as you'd ever get.
So these became more and more popular with the growth in motoring then?
Yes. The very first picnic sets, they started long before the car. The fine young lady would go on the stagecoach, could take a little basket and make a little brew at the next inn instead
I love
of going...
the little kettles and burners that go with them.
Yeah.
This is an interesting set just behind you here in the green.
Oh, the three-place, the Sweetheart set.
Sweetheart set, why do you
Oh.
call it that?
Well, he had to take future mother-in-law with him.
Hence the set for three.
Three,
Him,
yes.
her and the battle axe.
That's right.
They are in perfect condition, most of these.
Oh, yes.
Do you only go for the best now?
Yes. There are so many around that are incomplete, what I would say have been thrown together, not with the correct china, anything's been put in. And to be quite honest, it's not a waste of time.
So if we look at a set like this one,
Yes.
for example,
Yes.
this is all perfect?
Yes.
Original?
Yes.
Used?
Yes.
How do you tell whether something's been used or not? I mean, I see some there that are still in their cellophane, so they obviously haven't.
Well, usually the one thing about it is the flasks have never been cleaned. That's a good telltale sign. And secondly, always look in the sandwich box, because I once bought a 60s one with 60s sandwiches still in it.
How disgusting. I can see a packet of tea sitting in there. Is that the original tea
That's
found
the original
in there?
tea found in it. I think it's got 2 shillings on it for £half.
Wonderful. Now, you've got a catalogue here, so does this help you date some of these?
Yes, it does. It's very interesting. Like this type of set, Debbie, would have been done in a 6 or an 8 place, and an 8 place in that is very rare.
We've got a sixer here, haven't
Yes.
we? With the sort of oblong trays.
That's right.
Nice to find those.
Yeah, very nice. They are very rare. In their time, which was in the 50s, they were quite a tidy sum. And that is probably why there are not many around.
What about this wicker basket here? What does this
Right.
conceal?
This conceals, this is a 1953 coronation set, which is in the process of being restored. If you look on the buttons, you will
Oh,
see
yes.
ER 1953, and also it would have had its coronation flasks.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it? I think my
Often
favourite
that-
has to be that pink one, the Bakelite baby pink one. I can
Oh,
just see
yes.
myself on the picnic with the record player going to be.
Yes.
Conjures up a
it's,
wonderful
uh,
lifestyle, all of this. Thank you very much for showing
Thank
it to
you.
us. Now to a plant that's most at home in tropical climates and a man who's devoted himself to its cultivation. With literally hundreds of specimens in his collection, Colin Norton says he's just scratching the surface of the 8,000 species in existence. It sounded impressive to us, so we sent Ken Snowden to have a stab at tackling some very prickly customers.
The invaders came originally from the jungles and the deserts of North and South America. They came here almost 400 years ago. Their descendants are here still, living amongst us. They live longer than us, and they can do you serious damage. It's the cactus. That one won't hurt, but that one might cause a bit of grief over there. God blimey, Colin, you don't get many of those to the pound, do you?
No, that's extremely rare in Mexico where it comes from, but it's grown by the thousands the world over, and it's a very popular plant.
How did you get into them in the first place?
Well, I was walking past the local florist shop and there was a ball garden in the window, and it seemed unusual. I bought it and it's just boomeranged from there.
How many have you got?
Around about 1,500 now.
And are they easy to grow?
Majority are. Some are very difficult and a few are impossible, but generally they're very good.
And some would say they're not very pretty, they're just kind of round things with spikes on.
Well, I found them fascinating. There's so much variation, some with very long spines and some are spineless. Very fascinating indeed.
And some flower, do they?
Most of them do when they reach maturity. Some can flower 2 years from seed and others take many years before they come into flower. On average they last about 3 days.
What's the history of the cactus?
Well, Ken, they grow from as far as Canada to Argentina, strictly North and South America, and as far from the mainland as the Galapagos Islands. And I think they were discovered 300-400 years ago and brought over to Europe.
And they can live to quite a long time, I understand, these.
Many hundreds of years, some of them, yeah. They reach huge proportions in the habitat.
This is a big one just behind me here, isn't it?
Yes, we had to cut that one down because it reached the top of the greenhouse. And I've rerouted the cutting and there's a huge branch developed where we've actually cut the plant. And that is about 3.5 feet in 3 years.
What would you say is the rarest in your collection?
Some of the Ariocarpus are quite rare. There's some on the shelf which are 100 years old or more.
Do they last you out then?
Oh yes. Yeah.
Now, it's quite warm in the greenhouse here. Do they need this kind of temperature?
They love it. Yeah, coming from hot habitats, that's how they flourish so well.
And what's inside them then?
Well, if you cut them open, it's just like looking at a melon. But I think I'd have to be desperate to taste them.
But surely something as big as this can't all be melon inside. It must have some kind of spine, does it?
In the centre, they have what they call the vascular bundles, which helps to keep it rigid.
And your wife says that you know them all by name.
Most of them, yes. Yeah. There's a few unnamed, which I don't know about, but very few.
And the other thing is, you know, sometimes when you get pricked by a cactus and it hurts, others actually leave a ton of little ones right in your finger. It takes like days to get out. I mean, presumably it's the same kind of defence mechanism. It's just up to the plant which one it does.
That's right, yes. It all helps to stop animals from having to chew at them. Infection can set in like same as if you prick yourself with a needle, but generally they're quite safe.
Now the second clue in the Golden Year competition and a chance to win a weekend away at a country hotel. All you have to do is guess when a famous event took place and call in with the answer. In this year, Elizabeth Taylor won an Oscar for her role in Butterfield 8.
And what a popular choice. It seemed only days ago that Elizabeth Taylor was desperately ill in London, her life despaired of.
Can you work out what year that was? To help you, it was also the year when Yuri Gagarin was the first man in space. Tottenham Hotspur became the first team in the century to win the FA Cup and the League. And Helen Shapiro was top of the pops with You Don't Know. If you do know the answer, give me a call. The number is 0900 144 7777. Lines are open until midnight on Thursday. There'll be more clues all week and I'll reveal the answer on Friday. Well, that's the lot for today. Join me tomorrow for Shoals of Fishing Collectibles, the story behind the Grande Dame of Gardening, Gertrude Jekyll, and a 24-carat collection of Bunnykins china. Don't miss it. Bye-bye.
To order your copy of the Collector's Lot in the Garden booklet, send a cheque for £3.95 payable to Channel 4 Television to Collector's Lot in the Garden, P.O. Box 4000, Manchester M60 3LL. Alternatively, you can call the Channel 4 order line on 0870 544 6699.